Terry Crews here on the Rich Eisen Show. America's Got Talent airs Tuesdays at 8 Eastern on NBC. Season 18 premiered last week. You can watch it on Peacock, which is available right here on Roku. And Terry Crews back here on the program. And we just showed for our radio audience a wild clip of two guys, one guy climbing a ladder with
and another guy balanced on his head.
On his head to head. So when I see stuff like that, I'm wondering to myself, how do they learn they have this talent?
Well,
right?
First of all, they're from places that have no phones, okay? Because you need a level of concentration and focus. You know, can you imagine you get a TikTok ding and it's like, you never get good at something like that. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man, hold on, I'll be right there. Just wait 1 second. You know, that's the thing. You know, Americans, we're too distracted to do things that good. You know what I mean? You got to have no Wi-Fi at all.
Where you're totally bored and you're just sitting around saying, you know what? I'm going to climb this ladder. And the friend's like, you know what? I'm going to go on top of your head with my head. Let's see how far you can go.
How about that? And I'll be upside down and you be right side up. And let's go up the ladder.
And it's funny. I asked you a question about do you know what's coming when you're on the air? And I feel foolish asking that question because I get that when I'm like, say, hosting an NFL draft. Are you told the draft picks before they're on the air? And we're like, no, because we want our natural reaction to be on camera, so the person at home who has a similar reaction feels a connection to those who are hosting it or judging it on the air.
Absolutely.
And that's what's the beautiful thing of your show.
No, it is. It's lovely. And I can't wait till we go live. You know, first of all, you know, being a former ball player, you know, in my time in the NFL, I loved the fact that anything can happen. And, you know, actually doing the live shows, we're going to do those in August, that really has supplanted my NFL thing, you know, because it's like the ball can go anywhere and you see anything happening. And it's the mistakes that people love. If everything goes perfect, it's kind of boring. You know what I mean?
Of course. And so let's talk about that a little bit here, your NFL career, because it's kind of forgotten, to be honest with you, Terry. And it's not because you didn't achieve anything in the NFL. You played for several years. It's because of how successful you've become in your endeavor. Who was you were an 11th round pick out of Western Michigan by the Los Angeles Rams in their first go around.
That's right.
So where were you on a draft day and who'd you get a phone call from?
First of all, I got to tell you, I was very arrogant as a kid and I had a big party. And I'm like, I'm going to get drafted probably like 4th round, 3rd round. And then then 1st, 2nd, 3rd round, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. And all of a sudden, everybody goes home. I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, what just happened? We go into the next day, and it's like 3 p.m. the next day. I'm like, I didn't get drafted. What the hey, man? This is over. And my wife was like, hey, get your chin up. It doesn't matter what happens. If you go in there as a free agent, it doesn't matter. You're gonna do this. And I was like, yeah. And I'm wiping tears. And I got a phone call. And I did not realize that the draft wasn't over. And it was from Ronnie Jones, the linebacker coach for the LA Rams. He's like, we just drafted you in the 11th round. Here I was. I thought it was over.
You thought it was toast.
And it wasn't. So there I was. I was so happy. Now, they don't even have 11 rounds now. Like,
no, of course not. No, it goes to the 7th round, and, you know, you would have been an undrafted free agent.
Exactly.
So who was your coach? Who was the head coach?
I was under John Robinson. John Robinson. John Robinson. Oh, man. Jim Everett. I was back up to Kevin Green, which was an amazing thing. Jackie Slater was sitting there, one of the all-time greatest tackles to ever play the game.
And humans.
Yeah, and humans. I mean, just incredible people, man. Walking in that locker room, I was just like, oh, my God. I get goosebumps thinking about it right now because to imagine, it's like walking into watching a big giant movie and you're walking in and you're starring in it. And it was incredible, man. All the personalities, it was really, really fun.
Were you teammates of Jim Everett when he went after Jim Rome?
Yeah, I was there at that time. I wasn't at the
you weren't
play,
there
but
in the
I remember
studio.
coming back in the locker room, and it made Jim Rome who he was. You know, Jim even says now, like, I didn't want to be known for that, but all of a sudden everybody knew who his name was. They were like, he called him Chris Everett, and Jim had enough. It was like,
you're right. And he came back in the locker room. And
nobody even addressed it in the locker room. I remember everybody was just kind of whispering and looking, and Jim came in, and it was like, it was different.
Wow. Now, you played with Seau, right? Junior Seau?
Yes.
For the Chargers?
Yes.
No, so you were in linebacker room meetings with Junior Seau?
Oh, my
Terry
God,
Crews?
man. First of all, he was absolutely incredible, man. I mean, and, he owned San Diego. You got to understand. Yeah. I mean, he literally grew up just 30 miles away and, went to SC and then came right over there. So it was like, it was his town. It was his place. But, it's kind of an example because this is so wild. For me, I turned 55 this year. And, it's so many players that were with us and I mean, what blows my mind is that there are people who are younger than me that are gone, that are passed away. And I was thinking, it's just wild, man. To be an old football player is kind of rare. It's something to do with the lifestyle, something to do with the way we think and the whole thing, but I always try to talk to players and let them know that, the game is just one small part of your life. You know what I mean? There's much more to go. The goal is not this. The goal has to be to live long. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I heard an adage said one time that there are no old bad pilots. You know what I mean? You think about it. You know what I mean? All the pilots that are old are good. And you want to be a good pilot with your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You want to see the end. I mean, it gets better. You know what I'm saying? It can get better. And I'm telling you, I'm a true example of this because I'm so thankful. I appreciate my NFL career, but it's always about what was next for me. And I really appreciate the fact that I had a good family and my wife who always let me know that there was more for me than this.
Well, obviously you have a great family and a great base and a great heart and a great head and great talent, Terry Crews. And so it's so difficult. I've seen it. The NFL Network turns 20 this fall. Wow. And I've just seen so many players who get out of the game and are wondering what's next. Yep. And, I've had this conversation before and happy to have it again here because I'm just wondering, you must have been, if I'm not mistaken, 27, 26 when you were done.
Yeah.
How did you get into what you're doing now? And I imagine, was it tougher than actually getting into the NFL is to transition to what you're doing now, Terry?
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you, when I first moved to L.A., I moved here with my family and the whole thing, and the first job I ever had was sweeping floors. That was the first job. And
where?
It was at a place. It was at a temp agency, and it was a place. They sent me to factories, and they were like, "Hey, man, you sweep up over here," and they paid me literally at the end of the day. It was the kind of agency that they paid you just daily. But I was that broke. I was that desperate, but also I was that willing. You have to get to a point where you are willing to start over from the bottom, and this is the problem I've seen with tons of superstar athletes because you're coming into a place and everything's different, and they're not willing to start at the bottom. I'm not saying you have to sweep floors, but you do have to humble yourself in order to learn. It's the same thing with martial arts. You have to bow to your teacher, And a lot of guys want to walk in and be like, I'm the man, and I own this place, and they find it really difficult because you're going to get resistance in every way.
So then what was your break for movies, TVs, or whatever?
What's funny? I auditioned. One thing, I got invited to an audition because I was doing, broke. I went for it simply because I was invited, and my wife was like, "You know what? You got nothing else. You might as well try it." Mm-hmm. And I auditioned for a show called Battle Dome, which was American Gladiators on steroids. You can look at it on YouTube right now. I played this really larger-than-life character named T-Money. It's like wrestling meets a game show. And I got it. I got the job. And all of a sudden, I'm an actor. You got to understand, flash forward 25 years, I'm getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Hey. And I'm going, this is unreal. I am living a dream. But it does start with the humility. I had to just give it up to other people who helped me and who showed me what to do. My first movie, I didn't know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Michael Rooker, who's one of the best actors in the game right now, He showed me how to do everything, and I just listened. He was like, Terry, when I move this way, I want you to replace me and just take over, man, and then say your lines. And he said, and if you have an itch on your face, just itch it while you're talking. And I was going, okay, because I would be like Mr. Robot, like I have to say my line and the whole thing. And I had all these people who were willing to tell me how to act because I was willing to listen. But if I walked in there and acted like I knew everything already, I wouldn't have gone far at all.
And yet Terry Crews, by the way, Terry Crews, America's Got Talent on NBC, Tuesdays at 8, season 18, my gosh, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. If you watch the end of Training Day, we've talked about this before, but I want to talk about it again. The end of Training Day, right? It's all going down, and it's going downhill.
Oh, yeah.
For Denzel. Going downhill for him. And I look to his, if I'm not mistaken, right, and there's Terry Crews.
That's right.
Staring
him down. Staring him down.
Now,
he's like, King Kong ain't got bleep on me. And listen, I'll never forget that night. You have to understand, I showed up just to watch. A friend of mine, he was the location manager, and he was like, hey, man, you can come down. Denzel's working in L.A. You can come down and see Denzel work. I was like, I would love to.
Now, you were already Team Money on the Battle Dome?
I was already Team Money. I was like, I was doing my little acting thing, but it was like, whatever. And the director, Antoine Fuqua, came over and said, hey, man, you want to be in this movie? And I was like, what? Yeah. And I was actually in another scene in Training Day. He said, take your shirt off and go to the roof. And I was at the scene where they were clipping pigeons, where he's like clapping and the pigeons are in the air and Denzel's coming into the cul-de-sac. And then he said, come back every night and I'll put you in different places. So I came back on that night and there was Denzel's big scene. He says, I want you standing right there. Let me tell you, my mother freaked out. She was like, oh my God, you're in this movie. And when it was on the Oscars, when Denzel won the Academy Award, they showed that scene. And my mother was like, you're on the Oscars? I was like, no, I'm not. But I'm in the clip on the Oscars. You know what I mean? But let me tell you, Rich, if that was all I ever did in my career, I would have been super happy.
What was it like, though, to watch him deliver those lines in that scene, in that moment?
Unreal. First of all, again, the same feeling I had walking into the locker room and seeing all those NFL greats and knowing I was playing with them. Like, we are about to go on the field together. That was the same feeling I had being on that scene, in that scene with Denzel. And I'm going, I'm in this movie. Like, you got to understand, I am a little kid from Flint, Michigan. I'm living in what I call way above whatever I could ask or think. Every day, and that's why I'm the most grateful man in Hollywood. You can't find a man more grateful than me because I know where I could be. You know what I mean? I know what was out there, and it was nothing. And so I look at my trajectory, and I'm going, this is unreal. I look at my wife every day, and we're like, can you believe this?
This is happening.
It's really great.
Yeah, you can believe it, for sure. And so when Denzel's done with that soliloquy, does he need a minute, or do you...
Oh, no, I didn't mess with him. But you know what I did? I did sneak something. I didn't take anything, but I saw his script. And he had his script. It was laying on the car, like when he's in between scenes and the whole thing. And he had written on the cover, the wages of sin is death. And I was like, wow. Like, this is how deep he goes. And it's funny because I found out later that they were trying to think about making him live so they could do a sequel. And he was like, I won't do this movie because I'm so bad, you got to kill me. Because he said, it was written on his script, the wages of sin is death. And I was like, this dude is the man. Like I'm watching, and you got to understand, after all those years of picking up little traits from the different people and all that, and I take it with me, man. I'm like, man, I will never forget this, and it's going to make me a better performer. The fact that he would go that far and try to learn his motivations, it was a masterclass. Let's say that.
That's what he wrote on his script.
Isn't that incredible?
That is crazy.
It's incredible.
Terry Crews here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's your, I'm sure you're asked this, so I'll ask it as well, your favorite act that you've witnessed on America's Got Talent?
Oh, man.
One that blew you away. I guess maybe we should parse it out. The one that you least expected it, and you're like, holy crap, that was it.
First of all, I have to say my number one act is this young lady by the name of Jane Marcheski, who actually passed away, and she had cancer, but she went by the name of Nightbird.
Okay.
But she was so inspirational. She left there, she was like, hey, you can't wait for life to be the way you want it for you to be happy. You have to decide to be happy. And it was like, a hush went over that room because we all knew her circumstances. We found out while she was on stage that she had terminal cancer, but she was singing anyway. She was like, and it taught me such a lesson. And that's the thing, why I love hosting this show so much is because I keep learning these lessons of what creativity does, and then how courageous you have to be to get out in front of the stage. And it's one of those things I know Ralph Waldo Emerson has a quote, and it said, God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. That means for anything to get done, you have to be courageous. I mean, for you to be born, your mother had to be courageous enough to have you. You know what I mean? So there's nothing going to get done without that courage. And when she went on stage and performed, and she got the golden buzzer from Simon Cowell, but it was less than a couple of years later, and she eventually passed, but her legacy goes on and on and on. It's something I will never forget. It's something I will never, that lesson that she taught us all was so impactful for me.
Yeah.
It's literally fuels almost everything I do right now. Like,
No
be
kidding.
grateful and decide to be happy every day. And it's up to you.
And then, so which is the act that was totally off the wall that you couldn't believe what you were witnessing?
There's a guy named Sethward, whom I love. He's probably auditioned for the show. You know, we've been around 18 years.
Yes, sir.
He probably auditioned maybe 15 of those 18. And he
He kept knocking on the door.
Always gets buzzed.
Yeah.
And he always comes back, and he never stops. And I love him. Like, I can't wait for Sethward. You know, he even has a show that he does at various comedy clubs called AGT Rejects.
He's made a bit out of being rejected.
First of all, he turned a bad thing into his glory.
Yeah.
And for me, that's my spirit as well.
Okay.
It's the same spirit. Hey, man, every day, just keep going. In fact, be anti-fragile. Turn something that should have broken you and make it the thing that you are selling.
Yeah.
That's me right now.
Turn yourself into being unbreakable. Who was the one that cracked you up the most? Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh my God. You know, actually, I love Andy. Andy is he's the man. Yeah. But Chelsea Peretti is the funniest person I have probably ever encountered.
No kidding.
To me, I always laugh with Chelsea. Like, I've never, with someone else, it's always been like, hit or miss. Chelsea has the ability to make me crack up, and I mean to the point of tears.
Yeah.
And this was the stuff, even when the camera wasn't rolling, I was like, this woman is a genius. I can't wait to see what Chelsea does in the future. She's got more coming. She's actually the best thing. I think she's like the new Carol Burnett, to be honest.
So how are you locked into the current NFL, or you just got stuff going on?
You know, I've been watching vicariously. It's because, again, I'm really, really busy.
I know you are.
But I love this new NFL, to be honest.
What do you mean?
What I mean is, when I saw Damar Hamlin and I saw what happened, you know, I was part of a game back when I was on the Rams, like in 1991. We were playing Detroit, and
you were there on
a guy named Mike Utley broke his neck.
You were on the field?
Dude,
you were at the...
I was actually on the sideline.
On the sideline, right. So you were in the stadium.
I watched him go down and break his neck and never walk again, okay? And we kept playing. You understand? The game kept going. They rolled him off. He gave up thumbs up.
Right.
And you never stopped the game. But to see what happened with Damar and they actually stop a game, I said, this is a new NFL. And I think, you know, we have to realize that we have to put people's lives before the game, you know? And there was a point where it was literally like the other way around. When in my time playing, it was like if you died on that field, that's part of the game. And I think the whole mentality is much better now, and I'm very, very thankful because I have, basically, I look at players now, they could be my kids, out there, and that's a family. These are real life human beings out here, and they're not numbers, and people put the helmets on and they forget what they look like, but I'm like, no, these are real people, and we have to treat them and care for them as if they were real people.
No doubt, and it looks like he's getting back on the field, ready to roll.
I'm so happy. Listen, man, that could have happened to anybody. Anybody. It was a freak accident.
No doubt.
It's just the way it is. And I often think about, man, if I had been hit in the chest at that right time and right place, it could have been me.
Could happen to anybody.
And I'm just so happy he survived, man. I'm just so happy.
Yeah, me too. And did you see who got the first interview exclusive with him? It was Strahan.
Mike, listen, that's enough. First of all, I couldn't not be prouder than my man, Mike Strahan. He is, man,
the Dick Clark of our generation.
He's the man.
He's taken over everything.
I love Mike. Mike he's doing it the way it should be done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what else to say. I actually got to hang with him like a week ago when I was in New York, and then I got to speak when he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I actually got to speak when he got his star.
Is that right?
It was awesome.
What'd you say?
I just told what a great person this man is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's beyond football. It was always beyond football for him. Like he was going to be a star. His parents raised a great young man, and he has the greatest morals, and he just really cares for everybody. That he literally looks at you, shakes your hand, and cares how you're doing for real.
Yes,
and that makes the difference.
Oh, I love him. So I love him and what Deion's doing in Colorado as well for coaching.
And you know what
Coach
else?
Prime.
I got to mention
Has
this.
he called you up to have you part of anything?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I love Deion, by the way. I love Deion. But I'm also proud of my man, Eric Bieniemy. I played with Eric Bieniemy at the Chargers back in the day. And to see his rise up the coaching ranks, I want to see him be a head coach. I mean, it's got to be inevitable because Eric Bieniemy is a star, man. He was a star when we were playing together. He was running back on the Chargers days.
Was he also a red ass there too, though? Because he goes right at people.
Oh
when he was coaching Adrian Peterson, he was coaching him really hard.
But that's the thing. He's a player.
Right.
See, it's hard when you have people who haven't played and they're yelling at you as if, you're just a cog in a wheel or you're a chess piece. But you can take that from a guy who's been there, who's taken the same hits you've taken. You got to lead by example. And Eric Bieniemy is an example in every way. So I tell you, and this is another thing too, I think that we've gotten to a point right now where people care a little too much about feelings, and you got to be able to tell people the truth. You know what I mean? Now, as everybody doesn't want their feelings hurt, and we got to get tougher than that. You know what I'm saying?
Bieniemy's that guy. He's definitely the one to deliver that.
We got to get
Same thing with Deion, too. Same thing with Prime.
Deion says the same thing. He's like, hey, I had coaches that were harder on me.
Oh, yeah.
But they make you who you are. I mean, if you can't face any of that adversity, if you have to have everything the way you want it, are you really going to get better? I mean, all my difficulties made me who I am. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. And I don't shy away from it. It's like, man, go into a difficult situation. Don't run from difficult situations. That's going to, how are you going to improve? That kind of resistance, it makes you better.
No doubt.
So that's where I'm at.
America's Got Talent, Season 18, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC, and you can watch it on Peacock as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Terry Crews.
Oh, man, I love
Let's do this more, right back at you. Let's do this more often whenever you want to come in, whatever, and then maybe the Jonas Brothers will do another fake Olympics, and you and I will be
that's what I'm saying.
We'll be in the booth for that together.
We'll be in the booth for it. You know what I mean? Don't break no ribs, guys.
At Terry Crews on both Twitter and Instagram. The great Terry Crews right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.